Hey folks, P. Basardo here, and you're listening to the Smoke Free Radio Network.
That was interesting.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Vaping in the Mic. Looks like it's going to be kind of a packed show this evening. We've only got just about an hour. We can extend a little bit if we need to, but there's already people that are in the phone queue. So please, if you would, take time, take a look. If you're interested in calling in, speaking with tonight's guest, the phone lines are open. It's 215-383-5752. Press 1 to get in the queue, and we will get to things as we go along. I appreciate everybody joining this evening. This evening we're going to be talking with a lady that is the director of state representation, if I'm not mistaken, for SFATA. She owns her own vapor stores in Texas, and she has, like everybody else, kind of a massively busy life. Of course, I am talking about, if you would help me welcome, Schell Hammel. Schell, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good, Mike. Thank you.
Oh, good to see you. Glad to be able to talk to you this evening. I appreciate you taking time to join.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Tell me, in your role in SFATA, what is it that you do?
Well, Texas, I work with the group. We work as a group and I help lead, I guess, only because I've been in it for several sessions for legislation and bills and helping to protect the small businesses here in the state of Texas. State-wise and the other states, I help with, developing those chapters, working with them on bill, all kinds of things. I mean, anything that I'm needed to do, I've done put together both of the two national conferences that we've had, developing the speaker content and things like that. So frankly, I think all of us we're all volunteers, so we all kind of just pitch in where we can, and where I don't have any experience or where I really just don't know what I'm doing, we toss to the other, or we, collectively throw our heads together and do the best we can.
Now, on top of that, you have your own chain of vapor stores in Texas, correct?
Yes, I have. I have a chain of vapor stores here in Texas, and then a lab.
Wow. Now, on top of that, you're going out and still taking care of business on a state level.
Yes.
And combating legislation, regulation, the things that are not good for the vapor industry. On top of that, you travel nationally to be able to go and help other states or help other people or to speak on their behalf.
Yes.
On top of that, you're still a full-time mom and you have a private life.
Yes.
I'm surprised you have any hair left. Really?
I do have hair. It's thinning. Don't get me wrong. But, I don't know. Maybe I'm just hyper.
It's amazing because I started to take a look at the things that you were doing, things you're involved in, things that were going on. And I'm like, my God, this lady's all over the place.
Yeah, I've heard
and
that.
And there are some people in the industry that are like that. Most of the people, unfortunately, they seem to have somewhat of an apathetic attitude. But we won't talk about them.
Well, I mean, you know what? And I feel for them because, frankly, we've been hit hard and we just keep getting hit and keep getting hit. And so I totally get it.
It is. It's difficult, and I know some stores join on a state level, some stores join on a national level, some stores don't do anything. And it's the one thing. It's the bane that a lot of groups are facing, is trying to engage people with what's going on.
Yeah.
There is something, and I'm not even going to dance around the subject, because I've got people that are kind of queued up in the phone, and I'm sure they want to ask you questions.
Okay.
First, I'm going to roll a clip. Now, this clip came from a recent, was it a hearing or a committee meeting in Texas?
It was a committee hearing in the House.
Okay.
In the state of Texas over a licensing and permitting bill.
I'm going to pull this up and show people what's going on. This was something. Let's take a look at the clip first, and then we'll kind of work from there.
Okay.
What do y'all think? I mean,
I believe there's a connection with Jewel myself, but
No.
okay.
Okay.
Miss, identify who you are.
Yeah, just
Oh, Schell Hammel. Sorry.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're a member of VTA, which Jewel is a member of VTA, so there is a connection.
Now, that clip, ironically, sparked a lot of controversy.
Okay.
And I need to ask, in listening to that, do you remember what the question was that sparked your response?
The question was, I believe that the question was to Jay, who is, I'm not going to name his title, but I don't know if he's the director or executive director or what is it he is, but he is over TVC, which is Texas Vapor Coalition. And the question was asked, are you one of the big guys? And he said no. And I'm not gonna paraphrase because I don't know exactly what he said. And then he came to us and said, what do you think? I think about the big guys. And I said, well, I think there's a connection with Jewel. And he said no. And then she asked me to clarify and say my name. And I said, they're a member of VTA, and Jewel is a member of VTA, and so there is a connection. I'm not lying. That, as far as I know, that Jewel had $1.2 billion in sales last year. That's big, bigger than me. So that is a big guy and a connection to a big guy. So, and I didn't feel like it was a lie, and I wasn't going to lie. I'm going to tell him the truth.
Now, I have heard different things. The overwhelming kind of thing was that your remarks painted the VTA as part of Big Tobacco, or in some fashion affiliated with Big Tobacco, or things like that.
No, I was establishing a connection. That was it. I was establishing a connection between a big organization, period, because I was asked that question specifically, and I will not lie. I never said Big Tobacco. Those words never came out of my mouth, and never have they. I like some of the things that VTA does, just like I like some of the things that SFATA does. I don't think any of us agree with everything. I absolutely did not like the way this was dealt with in the state, but that's why we fought the bill. I mean, we came to collectively together as a group, and we had to fight because there was no communication about it. We asked for communication. We were told no. We were asked for language. We were told no. And so I don't know what to say about all that. I actually have no idea why the bill went through as it did, as open-ended and competitive towards Texas, and it was bad, and we were worried.
Now, I spoke with Mark Anton a few shows ago, and he and I touched on the subject of some touchy things that a lot of people have. It's almost a polarizing thing when you say Juul and the vaping industry. People seem to jump from one end of the yardstick to the other. There is no middle ground. Very, very seldom. Would you and I agree that we may not like the company Juul. Is that a fair statement?
I think that we have taken a big hit and we've been painted with the same brush. I don't know what the big, advertise. I mean, I don't know what the big thing is about Juul being part of VTA, because they are. So I don't understand that. And so I don't know why anybody would be up in arms with me saying that, because they're part of it. So why would you be embarrassed of that? I don't understand that. You own it. But as far as Juul goes, man, I remember Juul back in the day, and some of those people were really, really great people. I mean, are really great people. I mean, they're still there. Mm-hmm. But it definitely painted us with the same brush, and we have to make some clarifications when we're trying to protect our small businesses, because look, I mean, it's everywhere. It's all over. I mean, it's all over the FDA. It's all over the news, and we have a term of juuling. So we have to have some way to separate ourselves from that when we're talking about legislation, because they literally tell us, well, everybody's juuling. Well, we're not Juul.
Yeah. And it is the sad part, and what you say is 100% true. Whenever I talk with people and I say vaping, 7 times out of 10, somebody goes, oh, you mean Juul? No, I don't mean Juul. Juul is a product in the market of the vapor industry. I want to talk about mods. I want to talk about other tank systems. I want to talk about refillables. I want to talk about other pod devices.
Well, let's not just talk about Juul. Let's talk about the fact that we go into these sessions and they talk about these cartoon characters and everything. Nobody wants to get rid of the bad actors any worse than I did. And I don't want to be painted with the same brush as them either.
Yep. See, and that's one of the biggest arguments that I keep hearing time and time again. The FDA is slamming the hell out of the entire industry when we don't have any... We have no way to be able to regulate those people to get rid of them. We have no authority to ban them from the market. We have no authority to take care of them. We can't police the industry. We can point it out, and hopefully the FDA might go, oh, that's a bad guy, and do something about it. But they don't.
We can do the best we can. Exactly. And frankly, we've seen it. I mean, we've seen a lot of people in social media point them out and go, this is... It hasn't ever been me, but point them out and go, this is not good, this is not good. But man, when you're sitting in front of a legislator and you've got to stand up against a bill or bad legislation or them painting you with the same brush, and you're the one sitting in that chair, man, it kind of gets under your skin where you're like, that's not us. There are good people out there. There are good actors out there, and I don't want you thinking that we're all that way. We got into this to help people get away from tobacco. That's our goal. And it seems like it's just been demonized. And
it has. It has eroded itself over a period of time. Mark Anton, and he said something that really stuck with me. And I know other people have said it, just for some reason his words reverberated. And he said, before Juul came along, there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of flavors on the market for the vaping industry. And we didn't have a teen nicotine epidemic until Juul hit the market. And okay, I can understand how that would happen. I'm also understanding that Juul can be used and to help people that smoke get off of smoking. Do I like the way that they're going about it? No, but that's my personal preference. But I have to recognize what they're doing, or at least what they might accomplish.
Agreed, 100%.
Would you agree that Juul has turned a different face to the industry now by going and actively supporting T21, the Tobacco 21, and going in and trying to help support a per mil taxation? Would you say that's radically different from where they were a year ago?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I didn't sit with their legislative committee and listen to what their their strategy was going to be, or how they felt about it. I think that everybody in the vaping industry has a lot of different opinions when it comes to Tobacco 21. I generally go into a legislative session going, I'm not going to write a bill or have a bill written unless I'm going to get something out of it. And, if Tobacco 21 could be the rider, and I mean a vehicle in which you can add on amendment to where it would protect us against local municipalities or local laws. It's just flavor bans, and you can have that amendment added, which is one of the amendments we're having thrown on the floor in the House. If you can do something to where that does it, then I think it's a good thing. It's a huge push right now, and that's the biggest thing. Is you've got the health organizations really behind it. You've got so many people behind it, and in our state, we have the lieutenant governor that has claimed it is bill, which makes it a lower number bill. That's why you see that lower number, and so you kind of pick your dog and go, all right, let's figure out how we can make this at least somewhat protective for us. And we went to Jay and said, hey, we're going to offer this amendment. What do you think about this? And they said, absolutely. So, we have been completely open. As a matter of fact, we went before the committee hearing of the last one and said, this is what we have problems with this bill, because you said you weren't going to work with us before. So here it is. I want to be transparent. So, I have tried for years and have always worked very well with everybody. I have never shut my door, whether you are on one side or the other. So it is, I want to work with everybody, period. I want what's best for these small businesses and to thrive. So Tobacco 21, if there's something we can throw in there that will help us, we know that we're going to lose this fight, but man, let's throw something in there that will help us win the next one. Great. We've got legislative amendments that are inside statute right now from 2015, which protect us right now for the Tobacco 21 one, which I was digging to make sure it was still there and they didn't throw it out. And that's what you do, at least you try.
And that's one of the things, because I know when you go and you are in front of these committees, I've heard horror stories that people that are on the committee and passing legislation have absolutely little to no clue about the product that they're actually trying to pass legislation on. Yeah. All they are is listening to news or looking at what other states have done, or going, oh my God, we've got to do this. This will dramatically help by raising it to 21, which is a load of crap. But it's got to be frustrating. It doesn't work
at 18. I don't understand how it's going to work at 21. But who am I? I don't know. And some of it's just crazy. You can be married or you can be a cop at 18. And
they wanted here in Ohio to put, if you have the right reasons, you can be married at 17. And I'm thinking, there is no way in hell. Now that actually, believe it or not, in Ohio, that actually raised the age, because it used to be younger than that if they had the right reasons. Pelosi. How is it that Pelosi wants to turn around and lower the voting age to 16 and yet turn around and raise the age to purchase either tobacco or vaping products to 21?
Yeah, you can trust them to make a good decision on who to vote on. But by God, and you know what? Here's the thing: is I always try to think apples to apples, and apples to apples by far is the fact that you cannot go into a hospital as an 18-year-old and have your mom sign an anesthesiology waiver that is lethal. Something you cannot, and the mother's not allowed. They have to make major medical decisions for themselves and only themselves. And so therefore, are you telling me they can't make minor decisions or less critical decisions regarding their health? It blows me away. And so I always try to think apples to apples so that they can get their head straight into that. We can talk about military and we can talk about, criminal and everything else. And I get that, but apples to apples.
Yeah, it should be. We're going to take a quick couple of phone calls here because this thing has been stacked up, which I'll tell you is really, it's odd. But the first one that I'm going to jump into is, and hopefully this all connects well. My God, I hope it does. Area code 830. You are live on the air. This is Michael. Are you there? 830.
Yes, I am.
If you would do me two things, can you tell me your first name?
Char. C-H-A-R. Char.
How are you doing this evening? And tell me, if you would, what is your question this evening? And where are you from?
I'm from a little town, Seguin, Texas.
Nice to have
And
you.
I didn't really have a question as much as a thank you. Because I listened to that bill and testified on that bill, and it terrified me because there was at least 7 ways they could shut my shop down. So, just wanted to say thanks.
Schell, I'm going to leave that to you because she's very much talking directly at you, saying thank you. Can you hear her okay?
Yes,
Okay.
Shar, thank you. That was very sweet. Thank you. Truly.
Hey, let me ask you while you're on the phone, are there other shop members that are understanding the same thing that you did, and did it have the same kind of impact?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, because when I looked at a lot of podcasts, live podcasts of the meeting, when they came up for the bill, there was a lot of horrible comments. Absolutely. Only because of the fact that the bill had so much ambiguous language that like one of the things was there was no way for you to stay in business if you lost your receipt. So, and just silly stuff like that they can shut my shop down for.
See, and I believe truly that this is the exact reason that Schell and other people get up in front of committees to try to squash what is going on. Because if they didn't, that ambiguous language, as you mentioned, would turn around and become something so sharp, it would cut like a scalpel. It would be horrible.
Absolutely. They could absolutely take the entire... Also, one thing that concerned me with the bill is they said you could appeal, but they didn't say you could stay in business while you appealed.
Really? So
Yes,
they
that
would...
should be a serious concern.
So they would want you to turn around and go out of business while you went ahead and appealed.
Well, they didn't say I had to or that I couldn't, but it would be up to the comptroller at that point. So if the comptroller decided that I didn't meet the criteria or whatever, I have 30 days to appeal that decision, and then they have 30 days to get back to me on that decision. So I could be out of business for at least 2 months.
Wow.
And we didn't even know what the decisions were based on. There were no standards. We didn't know what he would, and this is a tax guy.
Right.
Comptroller's tax.
And there was an advertising fee in there that was not even defined.
That's just insanity.
It stated what bank account that it could be sent to, but not defined as to what the fee was or why I would be paying it.
That is the definition of insanity. Listen, I appreciate you giving us a call this evening. I hope you have a great evening.
Tar.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you hearing me.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for calling in this evening. I'm going to go, and I have to keep switching. I've got like 2 monitors here, and I've got a laptop way over there that's running the phone line. So it's like, I'm going to go for one other one here. It is area code 214. If you can hear us, this is Mike on Vaping in the Mic with Schell Hammel. Area code 214, are you there?
Hey, Mike, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Tell me your first name, if you would.
How you doing, Mike? This is William Thomas.
How you doing, sir?
Doing well, and you?
I'm doing good so far. Where are you calling from?
Actually calling from Dallas, Texas.
Awesome. How can I help you this evening, and what did you want to ask Schell?
Well, it's not so much a question for Schell. You know, I also was down there for this particular session. I can tell you it was an incredibly long day. Personally, I got there to the Capitol at about 7:45 in the morning. I didn't leave till midnight.
Yeah.
I knew that it was a long day. You had to wait, I don't know how many hours that you guys were sitting around waiting for that to happen.
Well, it's not just sitting around. It's also, people going from office to office and, trying to catch up with legislators, have back conversations, doing the things that we do in these sessions. So one of the things I wanted to reach out on this is, reinforce what Schell has said with the fact that we make these decisions collectively. And a lot of the language was very ambiguous in the bill, and it was to a point that we couldn't live with it. So we had to fight the bill. I think the one good thing that has come out of this is we now have an open line of communication with Texas Vapor Coalition as an extension of VTA, and we're starting to have some good productive conversations between the two groups. We know we have legislation that we're continuing to fight in Texas where neither Texas Vapor Coalition, VTA, or SFATA can live with.
Absolutely.
So we have to collectively come together and fight these bills collectively instead of independently.
In that, I would wholeheartedly agree, because it is the one thing. And everybody that I talk with, everybody that's on the show, even the people in the DIY community understand this is a unity-based effort. And everybody has to start to pull their part, whether they are part of a state organization, a national organization, whether they're making phone calls, emails. Everybody's got to do it, because it is becoming horrendous, the type of legislation that they're trying to pass and the sneaky crap that they're trying to put through on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was my whole reason for calling in, is to basically we're starting to get an open line of communication. We're starting to work together, and I really hope to see that other states will start to do the same, where there's open communication between the groups. We're not always going to align on every item on every bill that's out there, but let's align where we can for the sake of vapors everywhere. That's the right play.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I agree with you 100%. I seriously, I appreciate you calling in this evening.
Thank you, William.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Have a great night.
You know what, Mike? William is exactly right. I mean, if anything has come out of this, we, regardless of, who's reaching out and who's not, this came out on the other side where it was very apparent how it can be very disorganized if you don't work together. And if you're introducing legislation, you speak to the other organization and see, because man, if you think anybody inside SFATA wants, cartoon characters or no, we don't. We absolutely agree with that, but it's got to be buttoned up. It's got to be buttoned up. It's got to be pretty, and it's got to be to where these small businesses are fully protected from back to front. Otherwise, there is way too much stuff that can be thrown in between, and it puts them at jeopardy. And that's our job. That's our job, because when these close down, where are our customers going to go?
I don't even think half of the customers would realize what is involved in the legislative process, let alone people that vape go to the shop, and if they're not really involved, they go to their local store, they buy their material, whether it's hardware, liquid, and they go home and they vape. And if they knew, half of the people in the committees have no clue what they're passing legislation on, I think that they would become alarmed to realize, hey, this might be going out the door, and unless I do something about it, so I'm glad that there are you and other people that are very much standing up and saying, this isn't right, we're not doing this, we don't accept
There
it.
are so many people out there that it's not, I mean, we are one part of it. I mean, even, and I know that there are many of them out there, James Jarvis, TD Bowen, a lot of them, they educate their customers too. So do we. And that's huge. I mean, if you can at least reach out and let them know, because their voices, I mean, those are constituents. Those are individuals that those legislators listen to. And that's very important. So Texas is this compared to all of these people that put in their time and effort all the time. And it's a lot of work.
It is, and that's kind of why I put in there in the show tagline this evening, how do you balance everything that you do? It's crazy. In a couple of minutes, I want to talk to you about some recent things that were said in the news, and possibly some of the things that we're looking at with the FDA. But first, we need to take a break for our sponsors, because without our sponsors, Smoke Free Radio couldn't do what it does, and I sure couldn't do anything like this. So we'll be back right after this.
Okay.
Hey now, this is Dimitri with Smoke Free Radio reminding you to please show some love to our wonderful sponsors. Without them, there would be no Smoke Free Radio, and they are as follows. All the way from Florida, Moon Mountain Vapor, with locations in Florida, and their liquid available for wholesale and retail, moonmountainvapor.com. Some of the best custards and tobaccos on the market from the Brickwills Vaping Company. The lovely Schell with a vapor bar, locations in Texas, Virginia, and West Virginia. And of course online at thevaporbar.com. And who says you can't have award-winning e-liquid without cartoon characters? That's exactly what you're going to get at theplumeroom.com. And finally, of course, the Vaping Advocate magazine that has generously provided the telephone lines for you to communicate with us. Thank you for your support. And finally, for you, the listener, don't forget to check out the coupons and codes page on Smoke Free Radio. Pick up some e-liquid and save some money. From all of us here at Smoke Free Radio, thank you for your continued support.
Hey folks, P. Basardo here, and you're listening to Vaping and the Mic with Mike Peterson.
Coming back from our break, and this evening speaking with the absolute fantastic Schell Hammel from SFATA down in Texas, all over the place with her own stores. It's been a wild ride for you so far this year. I mean, legislatively, you have got to have been dancing all over the place just to keep up with people.
Yeah, but it's that way every session. I mean, it's that way every session, and then something happens in federal, and that happens, and I mean, I think we're all used to it. I think we just kind of go. I literally go, okay,
It gets kind of wild after just a little while. There is another phone call here in the queue that I would like to pick up. So the people that are in the queue, it is area code 250. You're on the air with Mike and Schell Hammel on Vaping and the Mic. 250, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi Mike, hi Schell. Yeah, it's a little distorted on the phone, but I can hear you guys. Just want to see if perhaps Schell can also touch on. I don't think a lot of vapors realize the burnout effect for all the advocates like Schell and James Jarvis and all the work they do. They see everybody in the limelight and doing all the work and always presenting, and they're proud of them, but they're afraid to join in. And I don't think people realize the burn effect is real, And as people end up burning out and having to drop out, you need new people in there. So we need everyone involved. I was wondering if Schell could touch on her feelings on that.
And I recognize that voice. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Bill Tarling all the way out in Vancouver Island, Vancouver, Canada, who runs Vape Distortion.
Hi, Schell.
Yeah, you know what? And you're so right. That's why when we have SFATA meetings in Texas, we've got a new one that is part of our group, and they kind of lit. I mean, they kind of lit up because they've learned stuff, and she's, well, there's a couple of them, and they're so phenomenal, and I'm like, oh my gosh, let me pick your brain. And I always do that when we get into a meeting and go, all right, everybody, throw stuff at me. Let's go. Let's brainstorm, because I don't care how smart you are. You cannot do this alone. I can't do it without, James. I can't do it without Dimitri. We can't do it without Mark. We can't do it without April. We can't do it without any of these people. They help to blend. And I don't know how many times somebody said, hey, Schell, send me this. And then I'm sending them that, and I say, hey, send me this. And we're collectively together working. And I love that. And I would love to see that in every state. But you are exactly right. Those new heads are so needed, because they have that passion and honestly, they ignite ours, because we're kind of like, oh my gosh. And then they come in and you're like, ooh, maybe you can take over next year. Come here, let me teach you. But it's great because they have that passion and they ignite your passion. And you're absolutely right, Bill. I mean, really, everybody is welcome. And like you've heard some of our groups say, all those heads come together collectively and they make a decision collectively, and it feels so good when you have that new person in there that just has a new idea.
Well, I'm hoping a lot of people, if they get a chance to watch the replay of that last hearing, they saw you. It'll give them a bit of an idea. Yes, a lot of people presented, a lot of first-time people, and it might seem scary at first, but every person who jumps in helps. And it does become easier, but it's really needed, because we really can't just let a few people or the few main people handle the whole load, because, like I said, I know even for myself, the burnout is real and you just get exhausted.
Well, and they can't do it. I mean, sometimes we get stuck in, it's so easy for me to go, we'll do it this way, and then somebody's going to come up with a better idea, and I'm like, dude, you got it, absolutely. You're right. We need every single head in there.
It is, and
I
Bill,
just want to say you did awesome at that hearing. So I'll let the others call in, but you did absolutely awesome and much appreciated. And thanks, Mike, for bringing her on the show.
Oh, I'm glad that she was able to join the show. Thanks for calling in, Bill. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Bill.
Bye, guys.
That's a guy that gets things done. He's amazing. I'm watching, and because I've got so many things running, my PC is starting to lag, and it's killing me here.
Uh-oh.
No, it's okay. I'll work on it as we go along. Bill and I have had an awful lot of conversations when we are talking about burnout, working a lot, and how some of the people like yourself, Mark Anton, Dimitri, Phil Basardo, even Fig Ramsey and other people, they've got to be hitting a brick wall somewhere where they come along, because it is just phenomenally, incredibly boring, tough, and becomes difficult, to say the least.
Tiring and frustrating because you have this message, and it seems like every time you almost feel like you've got a leg up, and you've gotten through to something, and then all of a sudden something else hits, and you're like, really? I mean, it's just I find it fascinating that we have to defend this product with all of the data, with all of the
Yep.
success stories, with all of the individuals, the numbers of where it's worked over 50% versus 5% of the NRT methods, the numbers alone blow me away. And if I had this for my grandfather years ago, I mean, he may still be here with my grandmother. And it's like, it boggles my mind why we have to defend this so bad.
It is an amazing kind of thing, and I'm right on the same page. How do people not understand? And because they fed false information from Kentucky Fried Kids for smoking, and from all of Fox News and all of the garbage and the news that's out there, that people don't understand this is a safer product than smoking, hands down, every day of the week. It made me stop and think. There was something, and I'm absolutely at a loss to say who it was or when it happened, but there was a lady that said that they add ammonia to the e-liquid to make bigger clouds. This is just really recent, and I've just been reading about it throughout the day. And I'm like, and this was in a testimony, in front of a committee, and I'm thinking, we get lambasted every single day if we are not as transparent as saran wrap, you know?
Right.
But that we have jackass people like that can stand up and make whatever claims they want, and the media picks it up, and it becomes instant news, and therefore, by God, it must be true. They said it in a committee, it must be true. How do we combat that? Because like you said, somebody comes out with a video that's 2 minutes long, like tobacco-free kids. I can't stand them. But they come out with this 2-minute video. That's why I call them Kentucky Fried Tobacco for Kids.
Fried Kids.
Just makes me angry. They come out with this 2-minute video, and to refute it, it takes us like 6 hours just to come up with a 30-second little kind of conversational clip to say, here's what they said, here's what was wrong, here's why it's wrong. But how would we combat somebody, some lady, standing up and going, oh my God, they put ammonia in their juice to be able to blow bigger clouds?
Well, you know what? And why we have to battle that anyway with all of the education out there on how to create e-liquids in a safe manner boggles my mind. And why you would think that that's a good idea to say? I mean, I don't know. You know what? I stopped being surprised. I stopped being shocked because, frankly, I mean, I'd have a heart attack. It's just not. You can't do it anymore. You can't be shocked. But you know, in the same regard, you've got so much money being thrown at. I hate to use the term fake news, but fake news. And you know, once it's there, it's like you can't unring that bell, you know, and they just want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and I don't understand that.
I don't either. And Bill Charling piped up and he said that ammonia comment was actually made during the New York hearing April 23rd, last Tuesday.
Oh, God bless you.
And
God bless New York and California. God bless California.
You know, it's just how do they get away with garbage and they're believed? It infuriates me. There is no doubt about it. Yeah.
I don't have an answer. I don't know that anybody does have an answer, honestly. Or who can sit there and go, can believe that everybody does this. You know, I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
In working with the stores that are down in Texas and working with people that you have across the nation, what are some of the biggest fears from shop owners that, and I mean this politely, but the ones that are actually paying attention, that care to do things the right way? What are some of their biggest fears that they're facing and trying to work with?
That they're going to fight and fight and fight, and they're still going to shut us down. I mean, we if you look at it, we're being attacked at all sides. You've got the cities, you've got the municipalities, you've got the state, you've got the federal. I think ultimately we're most concerned about where the FDA is going to go at this point. State and if FDA is not going to go there at that point or fast enough, the state's going to come in behind and knock our feet out from under us. So we've got to really be conscious of where it's coming from and try to combat that or negate some of it as we go. But I think there's a plethora of fears. I mean, you've got poor Pennsylvania that went through that massive, nasty tax and or whatever, and you always wonder, is that what it's going to end up when it moves out of the House and onto the floor and then into the Senate? Is it going to move to that? And it doesn't stop. But I think the FDA is probably the biggest fear, and whoever's going to come along in between.
Now, do you have any gauge? And I believe his last name is Sharpless, for the guy that's going to be running the FDA until they appoint somebody new?
None. I don't have a gauge. I'll be honest with you, I've been too stuck in the state trying to work the state right now. That, and then we've been working a lot on yepweid.org and trying to get that launched. And so I have not done as much homework. And so I will use my favorite words in the whole wide world and say, I don't know.
I've heard that he is absolutely horrible when it comes to the vaping industry, that the spot that he held before worked hard against it, that he's already turned around and said, we're going to continue with the role model floor plan. So I'm holding my breath. I can't say that I am enthused by some of the things that I'm hearing about him or looking. I just keep waiting for the FDA to make some ungodly press announcement. There was something that happened.
I've heard that too. So.
Yeah. There was something that happened down in Brookhaven, Mississippi. And I bring this up simply because it is something I think a lot of people need to keep on the front of their mind. This city council had, and it's a small city, relative, but this city council had a closed-door meeting, and they've come out now and said that all the vapor shops, you can't smoke or vape indoors in any business at all. And they passed it, and it takes effect in 30 days.
Yep, happened in West Virginia too.
How? I don't even want to. How the hell can they even fathom doing that without running it, through any kind of other legislative process? But how can small towns, cities, things like that combat something similar?
Well, I actually had to fight this in West Virginia because they did that inside the town of Huntington, West Virginia. The health department decided that they were going to pass it, and I don't know how they do it. Texas is so different, and in every city and every municipality and every state, frankly, they have a legislative process in the way they do it. Maybe they give you a 24-hour notice because that's supposed to be plenty, right? Mm-hmm. Or they give you a 3-day notice or what have you, and some of them give you no notice. And some of them, they push it to the health department, and the health department doesn't have to have a hearing. They just have to make the law. Wow. And so, frankly, I went in there with a battery of testing. I had a ton of data. I had, of course, clean air studies. I had the Drexel University clean air studies. I had a couple more of those. I had so much science that he said, okay, you know what? You can do it inside your shop. He allowed me inside that shop, and I think it was like for 6 months, he allowed no one else until they gave him the same science, which I thought was kind of silly because it's the same thing. And then he started overturning that, but it happened. It happened, and frankly, you just need to go in there armed with everything and show them how, number one, that these people are going to turn back to smoking if you can't help them. Tell them the process. Well, I'm trying to give you an answer, but I went through it. If anybody, is going to go through it, I would be more than happy to tell them how I battled it and how it came from and how they can get together and really lobby to change that.
Mm-hmm. And it is the one thing that people need to be aware. This is more than just happening in large cities or happening on the East Coast or the West Coast. This insidious kind of material is happening in people's backyards.
Without any notice, without any warning.
Yeah,
None.
And they will do it behind a closed door meeting, and the next thing you know, you'll hear about it, and that's the end of that.
Right.
In Strongsville, Ohio, Strongsville turned around, and they are now going to allow policemen to ticket minors that are in possession of a vapor product, even if they're just holding on to it. And they're not going to bother to see what's in any cartridge or anything else. If you have a vapor product in your hand, the police have the right to fine you as a minor. I have a problem with that because are they finding the kids that are smoking? That's against the law up there too. Are they finding the kids that have any kind of pills, weed, beer, alcohol? It's segregation, and that bothers me. But
Are they finding them? Do you know?
To my knowledge, not really. You see, I had this conversation.
We're so demonized. Isn't that crazy?
It becomes worse than that. I had a conversation with a police chief here around where I am at. There's a friend of mine, and he told me, I said, now what happens if the police actually started fining and ticketing these kids? He goes, as a minor, here's what happens. They have to be picked up and taken to the juvenile justice system. If they're going to fine them, they have to actually book them. Then you have to call the parents, and the parents have to come pick them up. So you've got this officer that's tied up doing all of this. He goes, first thing you're going to see is crime is going to go up because the police are no longer patrolling the state or patrolling the area they're supposed to. The second thing that's going to happen is the court system is going to say, we applaud your enthusiasm. Please don't do that because you are now overwhelming the court system and we can't handle it. And so I don't get what they're trying to accomplish by making this kind of law other than grandstanding. It's the only thing that comes across to my mind.
I don't know. They sure shout positive reinforcement and everything else, but
it is. Here's another question. Places like Florida with Mr. Nick Orlando.
I love him.
Yep.
Sorry, I have no filter. He's a great guy.
He has Florida, not he. Florida wants to go ahead and push a tobacco 21, but they want to say cigars are exempt.
I heard that. What? Oh my God.
What the hell is with that?
And Nick is a smart dude. I guarantee you that he has gone up there with every ounce of science on how those don't even equate. I don't know. You know what? It's money. It's money. You watch it every day. I walk through the Capitol. I see it there. I walk through Federal, see it there. It's money. And it makes me ill.
Here is one of my last questions for the evening. Maryland and some other places are passing T21 legislation, but they are exempting people in the military. Now, before you say anything, anybody that's watching the show, anybody that is listening to the podcast, please understand, I have family in the military. I am pro-military, have been all my life. I don't have any problem with the military. I have a problem with creating a second-class citizen. That's my issue. But
what about police officers?
I'm sorry?
What about police officers? What about firemen? Well, they're doing the same thing here, just so you know. They're exempting the military. And this is double-edged sword. Kind of a good thing because the health organizations don't like it. So they're screaming at the top of their lungs going, we don't like this. you shouldn't have them in exempt. Well, that's what's happening here. I don't know if it's happening there. And so there's this, hey, yell all you want, but I absolutely agree with you, because what about these individuals that go through rehab and their counselors tell them, listen, I mean, we're in an opioid crisis, guys. So we're in an opioid crisis. We've got, Sally Sattel and Helen Redmond in the trenches of all of this opioid crisis and trying to mitigate, ways to help some of these individuals. And it just came out that our teens opioid is rising. By the way, I say teens lightly. These are these are middle schoolers, some of them. So that's rising. You're in the middle of this, and they're smoking too, because 85% of those that are, opioid, victims or what have you, they smoke. So you're in the middle of this opioid crisis, and they say, hey, listen, let's deal with the opioids. Let's deal with whatever the drug is, all right? Heroin or whatever. Let's deal with that. Deal with the smoking later, okay? Why can't we give them an alternative? Because in the state of Texas, no parental rights are allowed now. You can't give parental authorization. By the way, I think asking mom to give you parental authorization at 20 years old is ludicrous, but whatever. So, but if you're going through rehab, there's so many things this Tobacco 21 is missing, and these people are missing out on, that I'm like, yeah, keep them smoking. That's smart. That's freaking smart. Love it.
See, it is the one thing that I know every state that received any money from the MSA, that has any money that comes in. Ohio had more than $1 billion of tax revenue from smoking cigarettes. Jerry Reed in the chat had turned around and he said that the military option was the only concession they would actually give. The only one. They were not willing to concede on any other point, any other reason, nothing.
And we're missing the boat. We're missing the boat. I don't think anybody should smoke. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. We believe that this was the answer to the tobacco problem years ago. I've been open since 2011. Believe me, there were no large manufacturers. You figured that crap out on your own. And we worked really hard and said, this is the answer. This is the answer to the tobacco problem. And man, they are just missing the mark. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do with these kids that are in middle school that are using, high nic products or whatever? How are you going to wean them down? What are you going to do?
It's true.
I don't get it.
It is one of those things. It boggles my mind watching some of this legislation going through. Iowa, different states going, oh, well, we're going to raise vapor to be 21, but you can still buy tobacco at 18. And I'm like, they call it V21 now. I'm like, you have got to be.
Where is this at?
Seriously, one of them is in Iowa. I know that there are like 2 or 3 other states that are looking to do the same thing.
See, that's insanity to me.
It is. It is massively insane.
It's money. It's money.
That's all it comes down to. It's all it comes down to. Well, listen, before we run out of time, is there anything that you want to be able to tell people that are either watching in the chat room or listening on the podcast this evening?
Yes, there is. I will tell you that I am so stinking proud of our Texas group. I love everybody in Texas and every organization in Texas and every business in Texas, and I want us all to succeed, and I want us all to prevail, and so anybody who thinks any differently, they don't know me. That is really the end result. I'm willing to work and give. I'll give blood. To anybody. That's just the way I am. And so I really do want to say that I'm thankful that we're here and we're on the other side and that we're trying to work together collectively, and that we don't have to go through that, because this is the second. I think this is another session that we had some kind of similar a session before, and that makes it stressful, and stress is not fun. So I just want to say I'm really thankful for for anybody who goes up there and really tries to help. And anybody who wants to come in, man, come in. We're a big family. All of us, regardless of which organization, you know, work together and become part of the family. And all of us really fight this crap. We need all the help we can get.
Wholeheartedly true. Ladies and gentlemen, this guest this evening, you've been listening to Schell Hammel. Schell, I seriously appreciate you taking time to join me this evening. I really do.
Well, I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much, Mike.
Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun. For everybody else that is in the chat room or listening on the podcast, we will be back again next week with another edition of Vaping and the Mic. Until then, I hope everybody has a great weekend.
Hey folks, P. Basardo here, and you're listening to Vaping and the Mic with Mike Peterson.